Now welcoming in Marc Stein of DLLS and, of course, the Stein line. Marc, how you doing?
I'm good, gents. How are you guys holding up?
We're doing all right in the off season. We're hanging in there. We've got a coaching search that we are more than locked in on. I know that you were reporting over the weekend some of the names that have moved on to the second round of the Phoenix Suns coaching search. Where does that interview process and everything stand as of today?
Well, basically, they're just getting the second round going. I mean, you guys know the estimates have been 15 candidates in the first round, maybe more than 15 in the first round. So we have 8 or 9 coaches who've moved on to round 2. And ultimately, I think what you're going to see happen is this is going to get narrowed down to 3 finalists or so. And that's the point at which ownership would get involved. And look, there's a lot of very accomplished assistant coaches who are still under consideration here. Micah Nori from Minnesota, he's a coach whose team is still playing. So you'll see Micah Nori on the Wolves bench later tonight when the Wolves are starting the Western Conference Finals in Oklahoma City. Chris Haynes, my old podcast partner, he says that Oklahoma City's Dave Bliss has advanced to this round as well. So that's 2 coaches who are still in the playoffs. And then you have a slew of coaches whose teams have already been eliminated. Sean Sweeney from Dallas, Steve Hetzel from Brooklyn, James Borrego from New Orleans, who's been a head coach before. Jordan Ott and Johnny Bryant from the Cavaliers are still under consideration. And then I think people were surprised a bit that David Fizdale's name was included here and that he's part of this group of coaches in the second round. My sense on that, though, is I get the feeling that David Fizdale is still in this mix because the Suns are hoping that he would stay on and join the staff of the coach they ultimately choose as Mike Budenholzer's successor.
In alignment with the head coaching search and the way that the list has condensed and the way that it will continue to over the next couple of days, if not weeks, are there any particular names that stand out or any unique stories for specific names on this group that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, it's funny, since kind of this list of candidates have emerged, since it started going around at the weekend that the Suns had reached the point that this was now going to round 2. And with several coaches I've heard, Coach X has a real chance here. Coach Y has a real chance here. Coach Z feels pretty good about their chances. So I think all of the coaches who have gotten to this point, or at least the majority, think that they are in with a real chance here. I mean, look, Sean Sweeney is someone that I cover at pretty close range here in Dallas, and he was a finalist for the Detroit job last year, and a lot of people thought he was going to get that Pistons job because he had been in Detroit before, and then JB Bickerstaff became available, and that was kind of a surprising development last year where the Cavaliers let JB Bickerstaff go, and then the Pistons had a chance to hire him, and it's just weird the way it worked out that the Cavs got off to this crazy 15-0 start and gave Kenny Atkinson this tremendous head start in the Coach of the Year race. And then what happens? His closest competition is the coach he ends up replacing in JB Bickerstaff. I think Sean Sweeney's going to be a real factor in this. I think Micah Nori, he was involved in multiple coaching searches last season. He had to stand in and actually coach for Chris Finch last season in the second and third round of the playoffs because of the injury that you guys saw Chris Finch sustain in that Phoenix series, which was just crazy. It's only the second time in franchise history that the Wolves had gone to the conference finals, and the head coach, the injury wave was so bad last season in the playoffs that even coaches weren't safe. And then, look, I think there is a fair bit of curiosity both about Jordan Ott and Steve Hetzel because they have Michigan State ties, and I'm guessing I don't need to clue PHNX Suns on the connections that we've seen Michigan State alumni when it comes to getting jobs in that organization. So, I have not heard anybody try to suggest so-and-so is the favorite at this point. I think there are too many candidates still under consideration for that kind of talk. But I mean, it is interesting that with the exception of James Borrego, who's been a head coach before, and David Fizdale, who's been a head coach before, if it's not one of those two, it's going to be a first-time coach. And we've heard from the start that that's the way the Suns were approaching this, that they wanted to go with a first-time coach, which, that is interesting in itself because the last two coaches have certainly been from what you would describe as the veteran category.
Last one on the coaching search for me. Our chat has been asking it, and a lot of people online have been asking about a couple of names that were left off, specifically Royal Ivey and Sam Cassell, two very respected longtime assistant coaches. Do we know if they did get an initial interview or any reasons as to why they were not selected to move on to the second round?
I'm pretty sure Royal Ivey did. I'm less sure, frankly, on Sam Cassell. I would have to do some more reporting there and find out. But I can't say that Sam's name, I can't say that I heard it in the early stages of this search. And I'm with you in terms of surprise. I mean, Sam Cassell has done everything you possibly can do as an assistant coach, and why he's not getting stronger consideration, given the strong rapport that he builds with star players everywhere he's been. I share the chat room surprise there. The Royal Ivey name, obviously, I think I know why that's coming up as a question. There was a thought that if Royal Ivey advances in this search, it would suggest, and I think we underlined suggest, that maybe the Suns are more open to keeping Kevin Durant than has been anticipated. The fact that Royal Ivey did not advance in this coaching search, that's only going to embolden those who believe that the Suns will be exploring every conceivable Kevin Durant trade option that they have this offseason.
I think you just lobbed that off the backboard to me, Mark, because my next question for you is going to be, do you have any updates on the Kevin Durant situation?
Well, I can only lob it to you. Believe me, I'm not the one who's going to be going up to get it. I was a decent lob thrower many years and many pounds ago. So I know that's probably hard. That's probably hard for people to believe. Look, it's still way early. I know there was the chatter this week about Philly and having possible interest. When I've checked out that scenario, it's been strongly debunked to me. I do not think Philly is in the market for trying to pursue Kevin Durant. So yeah, I don't foresee the Sixers emerging as a candidate there. Look, I think there's really nothing new at this point. The consistent word on this has been that the Suns and Team Durant are going to work together on a possible resolution if that is indeed the direction they're going to go. I think it's fair to say that is still the anticipation around the league, that is the direction that they're going to go. But also, I think Brian Gregory was pretty clear at his press conference when he took over that focusing on the coaching search is step number one. And given the sheer number of candidates that the Suns have been considering, again, still in round two, it's 8 or 9, depending on whose list you want to go by. So that's still a lot. And I think that is the focus. It's probably not the answer you guys want. I'm sure you would love to know today on what is today, May 20th, to have ultimate clarity on this. But I do get the belief that they've got to get the coaching situation nailed down first. Around the league, though, I do think the anticipation is ultimately that there is going to be a Kevin Durant trade sweepstakes, if you will. But also another variable here, it's the Giannis Antetokounmpo situation. That is going to be front and center. And I think among externally other front offices, they're really waiting for that clarity, because obviously if Giannis does become available, and to this point, we don't have a firm indication if that's actually going to happen. Last week was billed that, it was going to be this big, there was going to be a big development on the Giannis Antetokounmpo front in conjunction with the draft combine in Chicago. It did not play out that way. So we still don't have clarity on exactly how Milwaukee is going to approach Giannis's future. I think that has to play out first before teams are really going to think about surrendering assets for Kevin Durant. So that's another variable here that we got to keep an eye on.
We know we can't get clarity, but we do appreciate the clarity on the 76ers side of things, because that's something that we've been thinking about diving in a little bit deeper on. There are a couple other teams that are still playing basketball right now: OKC, Minnesota, Indiana, New York. Obviously, those teams feel like they're in a good spot, but is there any underlying sense that if an OKC or any other team has a disappointing conference final round, that they might have some interest in Kevin Durant to push themselves over the hump next season?
I can only put Minnesota on that list, and that's only because Minnesota has been a Kevin Durant pursuer before. At the trade deadline, the Wolves definitely did look into Kevin Durant's availability. Now, the Wolves had apron issues, and it would have required cap gymnastics for them to even be able to make a real offer, and it never got to that point. But the Wolves' interest in Durant in February, that was something that was confirmed. Now, they've had such a good playoff run, and this team has kind of come together. I don't know that we can characterize the Wolves in the same way, because, they're in the conference finals for the second year in a row. What happens if they win the West? What happens if they go to the finals? What happens if they win it all? These are still questions that can't be answered on May 20th, and I think we have to see how it plays out to get a refreshed, updated feel for where the Wolves stand. The Wolves, since Tim Connolly's been there, they are not afraid to take big swings. I think they've shown that to us on multiple occasions. I've written it a couple times, most recently this Sunday. This season was absolutely surprise-filled with the trades we saw, the firings we saw. It has been one of the wilder seasons in memory. This past trade deadline was as active a trade deadline as I've ever covered, and this was my 32nd season. But don't forget, it all started with the Wolves on the weekend before training camp trading Cat to the Knicks. And this was the Wolves making this trade after the most successful season they'd had in 20 years. And I think that trade almost gets forgotten because we saw so many more trades during the season. But when you think about it, that trade really set the tone for the kind of roller coaster it was this 2024-25 season.
Any updates on a potential Devin Booker extension? I know that was floated out there a couple of weeks ago. Is there anything you've heard on that front?
Nothing new beyond around the league. I think teams still look at Devin Booker not being available. I think the Suns and Devin Booker have both made it pretty clear they want to carry on together. So I think now, look, will a team or two or three test that resolve? Probably. Teams love to make those calls even after the Suns might say, Ishbia, the last interview he did, I think it was with Tim McMahon from ESPN. I think he stated, and I think even at the press conference, that's the most recent interview when he had his end of season press conference. I think Matt Ishbia has been pretty clear that the Suns do not want to move Devin Booker. But will that ultimately scare teams off? I guess we'll see.
Thank you so much, Mark, for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know a lot's going on over in Dallas with the draft lottery and everything else that's happening over there. But thank you so much for taking some time, talking to us, talking to our chat, providing some clarity on the so many different problems that we have to solve this offseason.
Something tells me we will be talking again soon as the coaching search goes from 8 to 3 and ultimately 3 to 1.
Oh, we absolutely welcome it all the time. Of course, if you are not following Marc, you can follow him at the Stein Line on socials. You can read his Substack where he reports things like who are the next candidates for the Phoenix Suns head coach, Kevin Durant trade rumors, and much more than that. Plus, of course, he is over at DLLS contributing to their Mavericks podcast and writing over there as well. A man of many trades, and we appreciate him taking some time with us. Take care, Marc.
All right, guys, take care. Be good.